At the roundtable this week, helping those who have suffered a traumatic event or unexpected loss in their life. Coming up this Tuesday evening, survivors will share their stories in hopes of providing comfort, strength, and hope to others. And here with us to talk about the second annual Evening of Healing that's being held in Plattsburgh is Dana Jeweler, one of the moderators, and Chelsea Schieffer, who was the keynote speaker at the first event held last year. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So tell us about this event. Why is it being held? What is the goal of the evening?
The goal is to keep the momentum going. We had a great event last year. We had 9 panelists, including Chelsea, and giving their stories, not only of their tragedy, but what made them stronger. You have everyone suffering in silence sometimes and not knowing, hey, I can learn from that. I can grow from someone else's experience. I'm not alone. Very often they say, oh, I compared to them, I have nothing. My story isn't that catastrophic. But that's discounting themselves, and this gives you an opportunity to learn how other people became stronger. I think everyone has some sort of tragedy in their lives, but it's how they venture forth is what we want to emphasize.
And you both have been through traumatic ordeals. Could you tell us a little bit about them and how they changed your life?
Well, in 1998, I had a snowboarding accident. I was 17 and I was snowboarding and fell and I broke my back. And so since then, I've been paralyzed from the waist down. So at 17, that was quite traumatic. At any age, that'd be traumatic. Mm-hmm. But at 17, there's so much going on in your life and you're so invincible. So it was very traumatic for me and my family. The school, everybody, is affected by that. And so I finished out the year. I had a lot of support. So since then, I've remained paralyzed from the waist down, but that hasn't stopped me. I've continued to realize the dreams that I had and lead the normal life that I always would have wanted to lead.
Dana?
When I was 8, my father completed suicide, and we didn't shove it under the rug or anything. We just moved on, my brother, my mother, and myself. And I had another life-changing event when I was 17, almost 18. My birth control was not effective, and then I was faced with a pregnancy without being married. And when I got counseling for that, I was able to deal with my father's suicide. And just each step along the way, you have your dreams and you just follow them through, and with the support of my family and friends and mentors, became a very happy individual.
How difficult was it, though, struggling with this and the recovery? Did it take a long time?
Yes. When I think about what I've gone through, you get into a self-reflection and sometimes self-pity, but you just find people to buoy you along and become your support system. I think I finally faced the situation when I was 17, and it was probably, I am now in my early 50s, it was probably in my mid to late 30s that I felt resolved and whole again. Mm-hmm.
And was it, for both of you, was it time? Was it help from family and friends and professionals? Was it, what was the strength, where did you find your strength to deal with it and carry on?
It changed throughout the years, the places that I've found strength. When I was 17, I was different than I am now at 34. And my role in life and my identity has changed as well. So at 17, my strength was really in meeting other youth that had gone through something like that, or had a disability or a different ability. So it was that then. It's still connecting with people and opening myself up to different stories, and also hearing the healing that happens with other individuals that have had tragedy in their life. But I would definitely say it's changed throughout the years, what's got me through each day. And a lot of it is connecting with people, and that's going to be different for each person too. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always that way. I mean, I had moments where I didn't want to hear anything from anybody. I just needed time. And everybody's in a different place. And some people really need more time than others. And so I can't pinpoint one thing. It's been different avenues for me. Sometimes it's singing, or sometimes it's writing, or sometimes it's being upset and crying and remaining that way for a while. It hasn't resolved completely, but it has changed, and I would definitely say that that I've had to remain open to wherever I am, even if it's not in a great place in the moment too.
Mm. At the event last year, you and other speakers focused on some of the ways that you came to terms with the trauma that you suffered, sharing your experiences and the lessons that you've learned from them. And again, that I imagine is a big part of what this night is all about, is sharing this with others.
Yeah, I think the event title is perfect because they are different voices of healing. It's not going to be the same for each person. Exactly. And sometimes your voice is not very loud. Sometimes you don't even realize that you have a voice. And I think hearing other individuals that are healing, they're not finished. They're not going to say, "Oh, I'm better now," but they're better than they were, and they know that they can be. And I think that your voice is realized by hearing other people, and I think that's the hope, is that even if it's really small, that somebody can hear something that somebody's saying, a story that they're hearing, or even a healing message, or wherever it is that they get their healing, that somebody might hear their own voice through that, and it gets stronger and stronger the more that they exercise that voice too.
So next week you're bringing together several other survivors, a cancer survivor, those who have lost loved ones to suicide, a survivor of addiction. What do they share in common, or do they not, other than the loss? Do they share a lot in common, or does it really depend on the individual and the circumstances?
These 4 individuals are very different, and Dina McCullough is our keynote speaker, and she lost a son to suicide as well. They all have different paths, they all have different strengths, they all have different weaknesses. There are a few common threads, but it's enlightening to see their journeys, and I think they will benefit from each other, listening to each other's stories. It will be a mutual beneficial.
Is the idea to help the participants continue healing by sharing their stories with many other survivors, getting the audience to perhaps approach the panelists after the show to maybe open up to them, or are you hoping that maybe these survivors and their personal stories of strength, the panelists, the participants, will touch and inspire those in the audience, maybe perhaps to join one of the groups in the area that focus on helping survivors like this? Or is it a combination of both?
It is. What we did last year, and we'll do again, is we have Post-it notes when you first come in, and the audience is to share where they find their strength. And we have that collection, and we share that with the group. And also, they're available to ask questions at the end of the session. Or like last year, some didn't feel comfortable standing up and asking, so they penned out their questions. And Bonnie Black, the head of Behavioral Health Services North, reads the questions and shares with them. We are going to be at the Newman Center this year versus the Strand last year. And I think the intimacy of the location, the ambiance in the area will open itself up to more questions, letting people feel more comfortable to ask questions. And if not, they have the written way of doing things as well.
Is a big part of it that it's therapeutic for the panelists participating? Was it for you, Chelsea, last year, even
Very
though
much.
Maybe the idea originally of this was to help others who are in the audience who are still dealing with all this, but at the same time, did you find it therapeutic?
That wasn't, it's funny that you asked such a great question, because I think about how it's an indirect benefit right away. These opportunities that come into sometimes your life when you open yourself to offering your story and creating some sort of a purpose for what happened, all of a sudden these opportunities, if you take them, they fill you with energy, and they really do, and they help. And it wasn't so much just the telling of my story that helped, it was hearing and that deep respect that you have for people, for their courage to do it. And you know, what happened to you becomes just this side piece, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, these people are amazing, and it's just, it's very empowering.
Yes.
You don't even realize that that happens in that moment. You don't go there just for that when you're a speaker. Sometimes it is something that you are seeking in that moment, but for me, it had happened 17 years ago, and I spoke, and I felt just so energized, and just this deep respect and empowerment afterwards.
On face value, if you look at their stories, if you read their bios, you think, oh, this is going to be such a downer, you know, but it was so empowering and so enlightening and so courageous. Yes, we've been through this tragedy, but look where we are now, and continue to be. Some were at different areas of progression in their healing.
I think, and being there and covering it last year, I think you're right. I think a lot of people may think, gosh, this has the potential to be a downer of an evening hearing about this, but it was quite an inspirational event last year with the music and with the sharing of so many stories. And I really think that people may have been surprised by the number of people who showed up, the participants, that so many people have events like this that happen in their lives.
Yes.
That you might think it's a small minority, but around you, many people probably are dealing with many things like this, and oftentimes maybe don't know where to turn to share with others, or look for maybe some of the support they need.
Yes, I work at the hospital, and we share a video, and I'm forgetting the name of the hospital of which video they put it out. It shows a cameraman going through a hospital, seeing employees and patients, and behind them there's a bubble of what their story is. Someone's about to get a divorce, someone's just had a baby, someone's afraid to lose their job. You know, everyone has their internal story that's going on, but you have to be compassionate of what could be inside you and help each other along, you know. Be there for each other.
We often hear of support groups to help people deal with grief and loss. Oftentimes, though, they'll focus on survivors who have gone through much the same type of ordeal. And is it uncommon like this to bring so many survivors with different stories together, and is that part of the whole idea?
I believe so. It was the brainchild of Dina McCullough and Bonnie Black and Jen Hernich last year, and they did a wonderful job. I may be forgetting some names, but they did a wonderful job last year of taking that idea and not just focusing on suicide survivors and not just on domestic abuse, but all encompassing. And granted, you may benefit from both. You may go and work with somebody with differently abled people. You may go and also in the heterogeneous versus homogeneous groups.
You know, something that came to my mind as you were talking about that was when my accident happened, I was not really open at first to connecting with other people with different abilities and physical different abilities. I was not ready yet. So sometimes in this way, you can find your voice and some strength and empowerment through hearing somebody else that has a different tragedy than your own, because sometimes you may not be ready to either be in a support group for somebody that's undergoing cancer or undergoing treatment for cancer or what have you. So this is kind of safe, I think.
You mentioned Bonnie and Dina. Tell us a little bit about some of the groups that organize this for the past couple of years. Who are the volunteers? Are they all, most of them, survivors?
In one way or another, yes. We are an offshoot. There's the Community Services Board, which is through the county for mental health. And this Clinton County, New York Suicide Prevention Coalition is our subgroup, and the Evening of Healing group is a subgroup of that. So all of the people that are involved in putting this on are part of the coalition. And we meet on a monthly basis and have avenues, the Walk of Darkness and different other suicide-related events. But this, we wanted to bring in people from every genre.
And based on how the first year went, you were quite pleased with the
Very
turnout
pleased.
and
Very
how the
pleased.
evening went.
When I came in late on the process, on the getting it together, and everyone was just amazed at how well it was. It was just a shot in the dark. Let's give it a shot, and it really went well. We did a post-survey. We have everyone who comes give us their email if they care to, and then we send out a post-survey, and it's really enlightening to see how well it was received.
And you touched on this a little bit before. Folks can come and just listen. They don't have to participate.
Exactly.
But they're certainly welcome to. They can meet. They can talk during the event. They can talk with the panelists and other experts after the event if they'd rather do that. So there's a number of ways that they can reach out, or they can
Right.
just take it all in and do it that way.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Behavioral Health Services North will have a counselor there if someone gets upset and needs someone to speak. I think there are 2 counselors that will be there as well. And Plattsburgh State professors have opened it up. They're inviting their classes. So I know several professors who are asking their classes to attend because it's such an important event. I'm sure many students have had exposure to tragedy themselves, or I know there have been some completed suicides, friends of friends and things.
It's free and open to the public. An evening of healing, stories of strength. It's being held Tuesday, April 14th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Newman Center. That's at 90 Broad Street in Plattsburgh, right across from the SUNY Plattsburgh campus in the Kehoe Administration Building.
Correct. That's a great place to park, is in the Kehoe building.
And you folks do have a Facebook page, some
We
information
do.
available there.
Yes, the Clinton County, New York Suicide Prevention Coalition has it on there. It has everything, all the events on there.
Great. Dana, Chelsea, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.